Hogfilson, where the snow is in very good condition, and now in Switzerland, the venue for next year's World Championships. The men's sprint is underway, and it's Magaziev who starts things off, and he's not fast enough to think he can win. He's sort of ranked as average in terms of speed, and I think the individual is where he's likely to get his best results this year. But at 35, he's got loads and loads of experience.
And he's going to need it today. This is a difficult course to manage. You have to have a really good game plan, different levels of intensity for each of the three loops, and know where to push and where not to. Here's one man that will know this loop really well, Seb Stolder, one of my favorites for today. He's never had a win. If he could get in on the podium, that would suggest his climb into the upper echelons of the elite is working according to plan. Yeah,
I absolutely give you the fact as we watch Rastaguyev get underway. Stolder is firstly has the right to think that a podium's possible. He knows these tracks really well, but what he doesn't know is what it's like racing in front of your own crowd. He has never experienced that. That's a big test. Heikki Gross didn't handle it yesterday. I hope Stolder has got a cool head on his shoulders.
Yeah, things you have to take that he can take into account: the crowd, the altitude, and the course. He knows the altitude, he knows the course, but we often see, is the home advantage a home disadvantage as it was yesterday?
Yeah, Joni Mukala from Finland comes from Joensuu, which is Kaisa Mäkäräinen country, and yeah, he obviously trains on the tracks around Kontiolahti, so I don't think the hills here will bother him, but the altitude may well. And we saw yesterday Brésard Boucher, who lives up at altitude, saw some lovely pictures this morning of her training ski ganging with the pram behind her. Remember, she gave birth, I think it was in February, and got her first win since then yesterday, so it has not taken long to get back to world-class form. It was a beautiful win, and a really sort of engaging interview afterwards.
So we get a quick look at the course here with the early starters. Tough climbs. The snow doesn't look too slow, and it's good that the cloud have just covered that snow up so it doesn't slow down as the race goes on.
Oscar Brandt from Östersund, his standing shooting has been nothing short of diabolical, with a 54% hit rate. You cannot compete at World Cup level with that sort of a hit rate. Luckily for him, he's only got 5 standing targets to hit today. But if he misses, if he misses 3 and does 3 penalty loops, he is out of the equation in terms of getting into the pursuit tomorrow. Christiansen for Norway, one of the main players. He's had a couple of blips this year with the shooting, which is unusual, but the ski form is there. And Christiansen, 7th in the World Cup standings at the moment. 4 wins on the World Cup. Could he win today? Do you think he's got the speed?
Well, I'm just wondering whether he can cope with the altitude. Remains to be seen at the moment. It's a little bit of hiss and mitt. Hit and miss. I'm hissing and mitting with my wording, but yeah, we'll see whether he can cope with this extra altitude on this tough course. Mukala doesn't look like he's moving anywhere near as quick as Rastaguyev's. Ligrid
still home. Yeah, Ligrid starting number 9. A 2nd and a 4th in Hogfilson. I think he'll be disappointed to have missed out on a 2nd podium. Missed 2 in the pursuit. So welcome if you've just joined us here in Lenzerheide. The men's 10-kilometre sprint is underway. It's their 3rd sprint of the season, and currently on top of the sprint standings is Tadej Bull with a 2nd and a 1st, and he starts number 43. The Bo brothers both going in the 2nd group today. Dale's gone for the 2nd group as well. And I think Johannes Tingesbø is probably the last man to start who's got a really good chance of winning. We've got Johannes Kern of Germany starts 55, but I think once those athletes are across the line, we're pretty thin on the ground. Samuelson was going to start 83, but he's not racing. They put him in the draw just in case he felt okay. And initially he tested positive for COVID with no symptoms. So the teams are testing regularly, whether you're ill or not.
That's really tough, isn't it? How hard it is if you get a positive test, but you feel fine. That must be soul destroying.
That's what we want to hear. A few of the Swiss cowbells. We're used to seeing that on the Tour de Ski. Incidentally, the Tour de Ski taking place this year. Italy and Switzerland, two of the venues. Well, we'll get an early split. George Coltier of Romania. 31 is George Buta from Romania. George, a popular name in Romania? I didn't know that.
He is, yeah.
Philip Norath. Well, what a start to the season he had. He's still 5th in the World Cup standings. Remember, he won the Östersund sprint. And once you've won one, you believe you can win another. Ski speed has to be good for Germany. I really do think it was a huge issue up in the cold conditions of Scandinavia. They did brilliantly, and over the years they've known exactly how to prepare the ski, and it's more to do with the base than it is to do with the wax.
I think it is, yeah. You've got different structures. You would think that a very flat ski would go fast, but not necessarily. Stalder not really pushing the pace early on. Now we'll see whether that works.
Well, you said, you know, he knows these tracks. He knows how hard you can push. And there were certainly a few athletes who pushed too hard on the first loop yesterday. Philip Horn, just 0.6 outside. I think he'd be happy with that. Christiansen still the fastest at the early split. Now, what about Oscar Brandt? No, he's going to be 5.6, the margin at that's only 800 meters in.
Yeah, it's deceiving though. Coming out of the range, you start working straight away. There's no rest until you're almost at not the highest point, but the second highest point, and then it just levels off for a while. Then you go up again, and it is very tough up to the highest point. Christiansen moving well, looks pretty relaxed. Magaziv has gone out fast. Well, we'll see whether he can maintain that pace, but good on him. Look at Christiansen. He looks so relaxed, definitely trying to conserve energy.
Yeah, the one disadvantage the Scandinavians have, although they do have altitude training as such on the glaciers, none of them live up at 1600 meters. So the athletes that live and train in Antholz, the athletes that live here, certainly one step ahead. It's going to be interesting to see the team's training regimes prior to the World Championships next year.
Very low position Magazine has. You see how his elbows are almost horizontal, and that means a lot more of your chest is resting on the mat, which means a lot more of your heart rate is transferred through the body into the rifle.
Yeah, and in that case, sometimes it's better to shoot with a really high pulse than a slow, booming one.
That's right. Arguably, it does work. And if the way you breathe, sometimes you can suppress the effect of the heart rate, but then you have to let
Hogfelsen, where the snow is in very good condition, and now in Switzerland, the venue for next year's World Championships. The men's sprint is underway, and it's Magaziev who starts things off, and he's not fast enough to think he can win. He's sort of ranked as average in terms of speed, and I think the individual is where he's likely to get his best results this year. But at 35, he's got loads and loads of experience.
And he's going to need it today. This is a difficult course to manage. You have to have a really good game plan, different levels of intensity for each of the 3 loops, and know where to push and where not to. Here's one man that will know this loop really well, Seb Stalder, one of my favorites for today. He's never had a win. If he could get in on the podium, that would